Ladies and gentlemen, we need to talk about the Sony A7 IV because I feel like the community on YouTube and online told me a lie. I feel like they told me that this camera was like the best thing since sliced bread, that it was the best camera you could get for YouTube and all of that. And I know we're in 2026 and the A7 IV came out, but this equally applies to the A7 IV. As someone who only makes YouTube videos, I hated my experience with the A7 IV. Now, I do need to explain this a little bit. When I say I hated my experience, I only mean the experience. The sensor itself, that 33 megapixel sensor that was in the Sony A7 IV and the improved one that is in the Sony A7 V, which isn't the same sensor, but it's obviously something similar but much better. It is a beautiful sensor, and actually, I believe for YouTube, it's the right sensor, which I think is why a lot of people suggest that camera. The problem is something very simple that every creator on planet frickin' Earth lied to me about, and that is overheating. The Sony A7 IV overheated in 4K 60, not in 4K 60, excuse me, in 4K 24 every single time I used it, to the point where I sold it, and now I have the Sony FX2, and it was a very big contemplation for me on whether I should get this camera or whether I should get the FX3, and ultimately I decided something. This camera, the A7 IV, this FX2 and the A7 IV share the same 33 megapixel sensor. And when you compare that to the 12 megapixel sensor that is in the FX3, honestly, the over sharpening that is in the Sony FX2 as well as the A7 IV, I think it reigns supreme for YouTube because YouTube, as you guys may know, compresses files pretty bad. So by the time it gets to YouTube, it is much softer. And when you have a 12 megapixel sensor in a camera, it already is relatively sharp. Now, it is native 4K in the FX3, which is nice, and I do think it has a beautiful cinematic look. But for what I do, actually, that over-sharpened image that is within the Sony A7 IV and the FX2 really matters. So initially, when I first got the Sony A7 IV, I used it and it overheated every time. Then I bought one of these SmallRig little fan thingies, if I could get it to focus on this thing. It's one of these little SmallRig fan things, and what you're supposed to do is it's supposed to clip right on to the back of your camera. And it worked. It did the job. I have no complaints in that regard. It actually did what it set out to do. The problem was, even on its low setting, even with good microphones, it was picking up very, very loudly, and you needed cable to run this. So, what did I do? I sold the freaking camera and I bought the FX2. And honestly, you may think that's a pretty ridiculous reason to do that, but it actually goes beyond that. Right now I'm filming on an FX30, which now is my B cam. It sits in this setup where I have my FX2 over this way, and it looks better in more of a studio setting. But this is, I have the FX30 right here for all the other stuff I do, like video calls and things like that. But now this camera can match this camera really well on the days that I do want to use an A and a B cam, because Cine EI on this camera and the color science on this camera is better than the color science that was in the Sony A7 IV. Another thing that I really like about the FX2 over the Sony A7 IV is I like the AI auto chip. That is one thing. And from what I understand, this camera actually has better color science than most of the other cinema line cameras that closest match the Burano. Not that that really matters, but I got to tell you, the image that comes out of this FX2 is some of my favorite image. And honestly, a lot of people have online said that they actually prefer the image that comes out of the FX2 over the FX3. I've never shot on an FX3. I've shot on the FX30 right here, and I've shot on this camera now for a couple weeks. And I gotta tell you, the quality is there. For a while, I've been itching. Like the Sony FX30, it looks great. And actually, if you put, a full frame video next to an FX30 video or an APS-C video, you can see the difference, but it's not that bad. It is a little bit noisier. I feel like the FX30 kind of looks a little bit more like a painting. It has a nice Super 35 characteristic that I like about this camera, but this looks, in my opinion, just right for the kind of stuff I do. This looks just right. And I like that it's a photo camera. That's also the other reason I didn't trade in the A7 IV for a FX3. I like that this has a mechanical shutter. I like that this is a photo camera with with an EVF. I like these things. And for all the people that shat on the Sony FX2, I actually think this is a fantastic camera. And if you're talking about the best camera for YouTube, it's one of these. It's either the FX30 or the FX2. But here's the thing. I don't regret my purchase of the FX30. I think it's a wonderful camera. But I think this, if I could start over and there was like one camera to get to rule them all, it would have been this from the get-go. I would have never bought the A7 IV, and I probably wouldn't have bought this FX30. And that's, again, solely because for only a little bit more, it goes a long way. B&H Photo, and I'm going to put the link to this camera, the FX30, in the description. I'm pretty sure at the time of me recording this is listing this for like $1,700. And this one I found for $2,100 the other day. So yes, okay, that's $400 of a difference, and that difference could go a long way if you're on a budget. But I think one of the most important things you could do is, I know people say gear doesn't matter, blah, 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 on YouTube. I kind of think there is merit to good gear. I think it makes you look a little bit more reputable. For some, for some, I don't think it's everything. I think good story obviously triumphs over good quality, but I do certainly think if I were to start over, I would have got this and jumped right into the full frame ecosystem. This is paired with a Sigma 24-70 lens. I don't use this microphone. Obviously, you could tell I'm not using it, but this is good for scratch audio. It's nothing crazy. But I love this camera. I see me keeping this for a long time. And yes, there will always be this like sort of buyer impulse thing in me that feels the need to get the holy grail, which is the FX3. But objectively, I think for what I do, the FX2 and the FX30 are good enough, and there's no reason. I do think the quality looks better on the FX2. Does it have some weird quirks? Yes, it can't shoot in 4K 60 without a crop. I used to shoot in 4K 60 specifically when I used my FX30 primarily, so that was a little bit of a hit. But honestly, I just went back to 24. It's really not that big of a deal. I don't need the slow-mo in these cameras. For what I do, I never ever use slow-mo, but I record in a studio setup. I record often, so I need something reliable. And honestly, this is probably all I need, and not this too. You know what I mean? But I will say I regret every little bit of the A7 IV for the time that I had it. So I just wanted to share that. People saying it doesn't overheat, it does. Now, mind you, I was recording for an hour long when I was recording into a CF Express Type A card. So it does get hot as it is, and it always overheated in the mid-30s. Which, I'm not going to lie, I'm in a cool room. It's 67 degrees Fahrenheit in this room right now. There's no big lights around the camera or anything like that. So it was sitting stationary like this, and it overheated every time in the mid to late 30s, in the 30-minute mark. I just have to bring this up because it is relevant to what I'm saying here. That's why if you're looking at an A7 IV, especially at the prices that they're at right now, for your YouTube setup, I say just spend a little bit more money and buy the FX2. This is now, I think, the perfect camera for me. Ergonomically, it is a little bit annoying with the EVF, but you could get past that pretty quick. But yeah, I'd love to hear from you. How do you feel about this? Let me know down in the comments. And with all that out of the way, thank you again so much for watching this video. And until the next one, I'll talk to you later. Peace out.